All right, so this is the official Season 3 WDL draft recap video, and of course, I have a couple of very special guests with me today to break this down. It is none other than Turambar and Ram9, our two finalists from the Season 2 WDL Grand Championship. And I just want to kind of pass it over to them. You guys can go ahead and introduce yourselves. Obviously, a little bit of familiar faces, as you guys have both been best guest casters. Turambar was here last season, and definitely familiar players, as you guys are two of the best players in our league. But yeah, go ahead and introduce yourself, guys.
All right, yeah, I appreciate it, Kason. So, Turambar here. Hi everyone. Second time making the video, not for the right reasons, I might add, but happy to be here, happy to be with y'all, and yeah, let's go, champ.
Yeah, what's up, guys? Ram9 here, and thank you for having me on, Kason. It's a pleasure to kind of do these videos with you. Talk about the season to come, and I guess I should mention that I did win season 2. So I am, your grand champion, but we'll speak about that a bit later, I guess.
Well, we can talk about it now before we jump into these teams. As we are hovering one of the brand new teams from season 3, basically the general, style of how this video is going to go. We're not going to go through every single draft round like we have in the past. We're going to cover every single new roster, as we have like 40 of them to go through. But before that, I just wanted to let you guys, Turambar and Ram, basically share your thoughts on the championship from this season. Any sort of thoughts you had going into it. Did it go as you expected, not as you expected? Turambar, do you want to start off there?
Sure. Yeah, I mean, obviously didn't go as I expected, right? It was interesting. The fight against McCraine, I think, took a lot out of me. I had to think really, really hard to come up with a strategy to beat him. And honestly, coming into the fight, I didn't really have high hopes. It went well, and I made it through the finals. But then looking at Rams team, the biggest unit to me at the time that jumped was Frayevia and Renan, right? Renan, I think, is one of those units that have had a huge glow up recently, with those skills that he got, especially that select multiple single target units skill, which is huge. And so I think it was a close, two rosters. They were closely aligned to one another. But yeah, I made a few key mistakes there, and Ram capitalized really, really well. He played excellent, like he did all season. So, I was again happy to make it to the finals. Disappointed to be so close and yet so far for a second time in a row. But third time's the charm. So here I am back again, and I like my team. So yep,
I like the
Ram.
third. I was gonna say I like the third time the charms thing too. That's kind of all I'm hanging on to as well. So
there you go. That's what we all hang on.
Yeah, Ram9 pulled it off in his first attempt, though. Do you want to talk about that a little bit?
Yeah, I mean, first off, I just want to say what a great league you put together. From the first season, being a viewer, being a fan, just enjoying things. I kind of, if I was in the league, I would have done this, I would have done that. So to actually have the pleasure of being in season 2, being in the draft, it's just so much fun. It's so great. In terms of the finals, obviously in season 2 we had a redraft for the playoffs, and it's funny because Kason was probably the only person I was messaging a little bit during the draft, and I felt the first half of the draft went really well for me because I picked an angle and I got the units I kind of want. And then the second half of the draft, I basically was just counter picking potential matchups I had. And this is a point I kind of want to highlight to the viewers and to everyone else. Like the draft and your units, that's only kind of half the story, because then as the season will progress and a lot of our new players will find out, a lot of the matchups is kind of like player matchups, making calls, gambling on what you think's coming, trying to cover all bases. And I told mentioned this after the tournament was finished. His was the only team I felt I had a disadvantage on paper. So fast forward to the final now, all 8 players were fantastic. And then going up against Turambar, I thought, I kind of knew, I think we both knew I was going to open with Frivia. So I thought, if I can beat whatever he throws up first with Thrivia, then he would automatically be on the back foot. And his highlight comp in my eyes was obviously the Dark Halloween Lucia with Joker. That was the one comp I was very fearful of, but I was actually really thankful. And this is where the psychology comes into it, because when he didn't open with that comp and I got that first victory, I was quietly confident. Thankfully, I got number 2. And then when we went into the third match, Turnbar, obviously you let loose the Dark comp and they beat me. But I kind of felt I had you at checkmate at that point. This is the first time I'm telling you this, by the way, because I knew you were going to stick. I knew you were going to stick to the Dark comp. And that's the reason why I held the Renan and Kilfei comp back, because I thought once I knew you were going to play that, I was like 90% certain that that comp could defeat the Dark comp. So I was, as soon as I saw the fourth match screen open and you'd stuck to the Dark comp, I gambled, went my full Magic comp. I was quietly confident. So I felt mentally I kind of won that matchup, because on paper, the one composition that I was afraid of that you didn't play was the Luel, Halloween, Lucia, and then a third, using some of the job VC synergies with, obviously they're both book users and stuff. So I think, I got a little bit lucky on a few things that, everyone needs a bit of luck when winning the championship. But I just wanted to stress kind of the player matchup, a bit of the psychology heading into, especially a 5-set series. But dude, you done a great job the whole season, and no doubt, you'll probably make playoffs again in this season. So it was a pleasure sharing the stage with you, and that's my thoughts on the final, really.
Yeah, I mean, you guys both crushed it. I don't know. I would have probably got swept by either one of you guys in that position. So I was a little jealous that you guys got to redraft for playoffs and stuff. I was happy to compete in the toilet bowl, was happy to win it, but it doesn't feel the same way as the playoffs. So I'm definitely trying to gun for that, get a little bit of action of that you guys had this season. So that's awesome though. Thank you guys so much for, hopping on here with me and stuff like that. I'm excited to go through these. And I mean, unless you guys have something else you want to talk about from last season, I think we should take a look at the new rosters. Move on.
Let's dive in.
Yeah,
sounds good. So I can open up here. So this is the very first one that we've been staring at for quite a while here. So this is, we're going to start off with the Wezette division. For anybody that doesn't know, we have 4 different divisions this season. Every division has a different draft, and every division has 10 different teams in it. We have a bunch of new cost changes amongst a number of units. A couple of big things to point out. There are a very small, select few. There's only 3 exactly units that are now 110 cost instead of 100. So the highest cost is now 110 technically, and we actually do not have any more 20 cost units. Other than that, it is still 220 total, in your battle team. You can't do mono element, but you can do 2 and 1. So those are just kind of the rules to keep in mind as we look through these teams and, figure out how strong they are and stuff like that. But right out of the gate, shout out to Mr. Aloha. So he is now in the brand new Wezette division. His first overall pick, Glaciella Flagbearer, obviously took the mascot of Wezette. So nice pick by him. Overall, I like this team. I definitely like it better than his last season's team as well. One thing I will say is I think Mr. Aloha is a very good player. I think his team in general, though, was on the weaker side last time. I like some of the changes that he made here. Glaciella Flagbearer in herself just forces the opponent to have to build pierce resistance or just some sort of counter to her. She's just that strong of a unit in herself. He's got a lot of really nice pieces with some, there's a card with both glove and book synergy on it that I like a lot there. He's got a ton of spear units, which is kind of his theme of his team. But overall, I like it. I don't know. Do you guys have any thoughts on his team here?
I love his team. I love the direction that he went. Like you said, he's got, I think the key to a key draft, in my opinion, based on last season, is having multiple threats for your opponent to worry about. And like you said, Glaciella, you have to respect her. Even at 120, obviously now we're in an era with, reincarnations and 140 units. Her stat line's so solid and her kit is incredible. She's like a 140 unit anyway. She can hang, so you have to respect her. And then what I really like and what he's done, he's got loads of enablers. So he's got Adelard, who can kind of act support, with the bust to the red mage. So he can haste squad. You've got Solskjaer to act as a nice enabler. She's also a Keen Blade user. And then he's got some, Halloween Lucia. We've seen what Turambar did with her last season. She's incredible. So I really like what he's done with his squad. And I think it's very, very competitive.
I think the one unit that picks my attention here is Warrior of Light. Warrior of Light being kind of like that glue tank that really is very generalistic in a way. Like it's not extremely physically lenient or magic. Like you can basically spec him up any way you want. And in his comp, really what other than Glaciela, which we all know she's great. Although I do think that she has fallen off a little bit based on the latest and greatest units. I think that Roy and Adelar can really pair like really, really well with some of those synergies. And having Warrior of Light as a tank on that comp seems extremely strong. Also, just to note, these are in order, right? So Mr. Aloha was the number one pick.
Yep.
And,
that's right.
And on the left side, we see kind of like each round of what units were picked, right? So Glaciela was his first pick. So just talking about the draft a little bit, and I'm really surprised seeing Oberon like on the 10th round. Like, and I saw, we all saw these slides. We three saw these slides a little bit earlier, and each pool is so different in regards to the units that kind of like fell down or were picked
Crazy
early.
different.
And Oberon is such a great unit. Seeing on the 10th pick, it seems crazy to me. And a huge steal for Aloha here. Ayaka, another great unit. And the one unit that I'm going to always throw shade on is Elde, the bad parent. I don't know how much he has to offer, but we'll see what Aloha can do with him.
Hey, man, I just like that he picked a theme with team #PokeSquid, and he stuck with it. He drafted both Elda and he drafted Alim, both brand new units to the WDL. I don't think a single person has drafted either one to this point, let alone used them. So happy to see some new blood in here for sure. So
no doubt.
Going to the second team here, we've got one of our new players, Greatestness of the Guild Elite, Team State Military. Ram9, you want to start this one off?
Yeah, I mean, this is going to be a running theme throughout this season. I think everyone has done a great job in their drafts. Obviously, King Bradley's just this guy's just insane. He can be so oppressive. Obviously, in our league, he's got the increased cost at 110, but it's still such good value. He's like 3 units in one. And what I really like what he's done, he's kind of supplemented him really well. So you can see in his first 3 picks, he's got King Bradley, Eileen, who's got a really nice 140 upgrade. And then he's got the Ice Tank in Nasha, who's very physically bulky to fend off, any potential win threat. So I really like that. And he's also got several a 30 cost enabler, which I think if you're going to pick, one of the 2 premium units in our league in Sephiroth or King Bradley, having that low cost enabler, like I'm going to stress this point a few times, it just gives your opponent a lot to think about, because he could throw King Bradley with Sephiroth and then he still has a ton of options open. And I really like how he's varied that. He's got Velric there. He's got Barrett, who's, not many people rate him, but he can put in some work. He's got Engelbert, who very physically bulky. There's a lot of major physical DPS in our league. And King Bradley, he doesn't really need any help with any damage. So I think he's done a great job. Turambar, I don't know if you got anything to add.
Yeah, I think every time we are going to review one of the King Bradley's teams, we immediately need to see what is out there to support him, right? Because he is going to be the centerpiece of your offense, and like you said, he doesn't really need anybody to do his job. He's just that insanely powerful. So having Eileen and Nasha, having the Severo who allows you to run him with any of the 70 costs out here, I think it's a great supporting cast for King Bradley. It's not easy to fit in 110 costs. I think it is restrictive, and we did see after I was able to see the rosters that restriction playing out. But he pulls a lot of weight, and out of 110 cost units, I think he's straight up the best, and we'll see probably the results that are going to support that. One thing that did pick my eye here is that he has three tanks, and they're all physically on the physical resistance side of things. So magic damage could be a weakness of this roster. But again, I mean, King
Mhm.
Bradley can pull so much weight, and we haven't even talked about Astros and Hio, which are both insane
Yeah.
I know,
carries
right?
as well, that he can play on different angles than Bradley, right? So yeah, I like this team.
Yeah, I completely agree. I mean, gonna try and keep things moving, so I won't say too much, but especially with Astraeus' new 140, I think he got some really, really nice upgrades.
Oh yeah.
I mean, so honestly, this team just overall looks really solid. The third team, we've got the Mish here with the mascot, 25th
Wow.
BAM, coach of the Black Turtles. I'm just going to shout this out. He took Gilgamesh third overall in the draft, and I instantly was like, Bam is my new favorite player. No disrespect to you two. And I was like, I can't wait. I can't wait to see what this guy busts out. It's very, very interesting team. I have seen this guy literally run a double quicken Mish set. I think that was floating around in our Discord where he was just blowing up like top meta teams with with Mish. So I absolutely love it. I know this player brings a lot to the table. Late in the draft, I think he threw together some really nice wind missile action with Charisse and Summer Jaden. You know, that Summer Jaden card is really nice to stack up tons of missile resist penetration. And Charisse is a unit that we haven't seen in the WDL yet. And I honestly, my guess, the only reason for that is people just don't have her built. Because she's really, really good at 70. Like, there's nothing wrong with that unit.
I don't have it.
Yeah, I don't even have her on the account, let alone built. But he's got some really cool options here. I like the summer theme on a couple of different units here. Unfortunately, can't run them together, obviously, because they're both 100 cost, but I still like it regardless. And I'll just say real quick, I think Ravi's is just ridiculously good. Even at 60 cost, she's an insane tank.
So yeah, really, obviously, what you said, Gilgamesh first round, Craze, I don't even know how to pronounce her name, on the second round. That's even crazier to me. Like Bam is putting up a 5D chess play on all of us, because if he can make this team work, it's gonna be insane and really, really fun. Gilgamesh at 80 cost, I did think that he would have some applications. Obviously, he's one of those few units that are extremely fast, has haste, quicken, can be a user of Kingblade. So, CT shenanigans, aplenty on this comp. But really, Kreese and Meech, obviously, I think he's one of his favorite units, probably. You also have Katia on the 5th round. A lot of tier 3 units on the first, like on the first 5 rounds. He got 4 tier 3 units, which is a strategy that you can see vary across the pools. Like in some pools, you'll see a lot of tier 1 units coming out of the gate, and then you have a lot of tier 3s for other players. So yeah, I'm really excited to see what he's gonna do. But yeah, Jaden Cherise, that's a very traditionally really strong player. So also has some power there.
I'll just say quickly, I think you guys have covered the roster very well. I know Bam personally. We were in the same guild for over a year and a bit, and I can tell you right now, he's going to be a fan favorite, and he'll make the highlight reel every week for sometimes it'll blow up in his face, but other times you're going to get some unreal plays. He's been doing this for as long as I've known him. He picks like low tier units, low cost units that you've never even seen play, and he'll just pull something out of his back pocket, and you're like, wait, what? What happened? So I know this personally. So yeah, I think shout out to Bam, a very good friend of mine. Glad he's in the league, and I'm sure the viewers and fans are really going to appreciate what he brings this season.
Shout out to Bam. It sounds like he was made for this league.
I know, right?
4th overall pick, we've got Numero 80 here. New player, coach of blind enthusiasts. So this was the Sephiroth player. So this is one of our other 110 cost units. Went 4th overall. Paired some really nice options with him, with Little Leela, and being able to run something like Curry. Obviously, a couple other strong dark units. What do you guys think in general of this team? I think it is very, very scary, personally.
I think this is a very scary team. Similar to what we were saying before, you've got the Sephiroth, but then you've got that Zazan, who, yes, his cost has risen from 20 to 30, but he's still insane value. And now being able to reincarnate him is very cheap, very efficient. So his stats are gonna, be on par with like an MR. And just having those two, it just opens up his roster very, very nicely. He's got the Kuri, you always have to respect his range and his frostbite. He's got an insane transcendence. The ice missile threat. And then his final pick, shout out his final pick, because I think that clues a lot of compositions together. Without the Phoebe at 50 costs, I think he might struggle a little bit, but having that as an option really opens up the potential. So yeah, very scary. A great draft.
He might be the best 50 cost time mage in our format, and he got in the 11th round.
I know it's crazy.
Yeah, that one is definitely a surprise to see so late. But I just want to shout out the Sephiroth drafter here, numero 80, because I think I saw a lot of Sephiroth's team, and he's probably the one that did the best job at like surrounding Sephiroth with pieces that would just boost him up, especially because he was able to get Zazan and Little Lila, two options that are incredible to pair with Sephiroth and leave you with enough space to do other things. So yeah, I think a very solid comp. He got we didn't even talk about Alaya and Eliza combo again with Zazan, right? Like we saw Machen doing disgusting things with that and last season, and depending on the map, depending on the map, that can be devastating. So Garvel, Lemure, I think there's not a single pick that I don't like here. It's a really solid draft.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I agree fully. At the very end of the draft video, I'll probably show it, but I'm pretty sure numero 80 was ranked #1 in our division. We basically did some ranks. All the players in the division ranked the teams in the division on how they thought they'd finish. I think numero 80 was first, if I remember correctly. So, the 5th overall pick, we've got Garokin, coach of Corked and Screwed. He took the unit that I really, really, truly wanted in the first round, Edward Elric. I think this is a fantastic choice, especially paired with Tifa. Not only is it good win, but it's just good strike synergy with only 160 costs. And you can pair that up with something like, I almost said Lucio on accident, but Marial is a good magic tank. Silma, brings haste as well as a ton of damage. And even if you don't want to go full 220, like throw somebody in like Mariluk, I think Mariluk in a full strike team is worth 50 or 60 costs, legitimately, if you're running those cards. So not only to mention, he somehow snagged Yuffie in the 5th round. When I ranked all units in our format per cost, Yuffie was in like the top 3 units of every unit in league and what I thought they brought value. The only reason I didn't take her sooner is because I don't have her. So I don't know. To pair up with Sweetheart Eldira, this is one of my favorite teams. I think it's very, very strong.
Garo is a guildmate of mine and also a friend. Like I've known him for 11 years now, 12 years or something like that. He brought me into this game. So I know him very well. And in Get Thrifty, we did have a little bit of a conversation before the draft and kind of like get our thoughts in units and things like that. To kind of like prepare, right? Because we had 3 veterans coming back with Jesus and Rooster, and then 3 new players. Garo is one of them. So we want to kind of level the play field there. And one of the things that we consistently end up with was Edward. The power of Edward Elric. We ended up ranking him like higher than Sephiroth in our own tier list, like still lower than Bradley, but stronger than Sephiroth, just because of just the power of those strike teams and the fact that he's not really constrained just to strike teams. He can do just fine on a win team shell. But yeah, Garoli, an amazing job here. I love this team having Edward and Lucio, basically 2 units that you can potentially max reincarnate, which is going to be one of the big differences this season, right? There's going to be a lot of decisions to be made by players into how to use your resources to reincarnate units, right? And then having Yuffie in the 5th round, I mean, that's one of the reasons why I kind of don't like no redraft for playoffs, because like that shouldn't happen. That shouldn't happen. Having Yuffie in the 5th round seems illegal to me. So yeah, I love this team, man.
Can relate to Kason because I think both of us were going to pick Edward Elric first pick, and as soon as he made his pick, we messaged each other like, "No!" Oh man,
it was brutal.
I'll tell you, yeah. Shout out this draft. I love this draft. In terms of obviously we've touched on Edward Elric. He's just insane, and especially in our format because he's very self-sufficient. And just one thing I want to, I guess, highlight as well. I don't know if I'm letting out a few secrets to the whole class here, but
tell us. I'm just taking notes here.
Let him out. Yeah.
Yeah. So one thing that I found extremely valuable, and this is why Thrive is like excels in this contact, is that she's a 1-turn ramp up unit. All she needs is 1 buff, and she's good to go. And Edward can be played in the same way. All he needs is that his 1 self buff, and he's good to go. Mm-hmm. He's got Dispel on every one of his attacks. He gives himself AP. He's very efficient. He hits like a truck. He's got tons of breaks. I agree. He was my number 1 pick. You know, I'm a huge FMA fan anyway, so I was. It really hurt not having him. The last unit I'd want to shout out, we've touched on Yuffie, is Marielle, who I think is the best 50 cost tank. Her upgrade is insane. She's basically a UR, and the fact that he can go something like Edward, Marielle, and then he's got what I love about his draft, and I'm guessing he thought about this, is if you look at his last kind of 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 picks, 4 of them are 80 cost units, and this goes back to what I was mentioning previously about just giving your opponent loads of things to worry about, because there's like 6 or 7 compositions he could run very effectively. So I mean, another fantastic draft, and this one hurt.
Yeah,
I let me tell you just one thing.
Yeah,
every single Edward is with Get Swifty this season.
You guys suck.
The damn collusion. I try not to complain about anybody stealing picks in the draft because, you know, everybody wants everybody and all that kind of stuff. But there were 2 units in this draft that I was heartbroken not to get and got taken right before me. They're both on this team. It is Edward and it is Marielle. And you're going to see in my draft.
There you go.
To note, you're going to notice like Ravis was already taken and Marielle gets taken. There was a huge run of 50 cost or 60 cost MR tanks in our draft in round 3. Like all of a sudden they just all started to go. And you're going to see that as we keep going here as another one here in this 3rd round here. So the next one is Chise with the Heretics. One of you guys want to break down this team?
Yeah, I'll go. Because week 1, I actually have Chise as my opponent. So, you know, I've been looking at great detail, and I think he's done a good job. There was a bit of debate in our Discord, you know, whether Wingstern warrants the 110 price tag. A lot of people think, you know, he's not quite up to the Sephiroth and Bradley levels. I personally think he is, simply because he's very self-sufficient and he covers a ton of bases. He has the re-raise. He's very fast, especially with the Dark Bahamut VC. He has tons of utility in his kit. He has the re-raise. He's very accurate, which is a very strong asset to have, especially with Yuffie running around, and she's going to be in all 4 leagues. You likely bump into her in the playoffs as well. So I think he very much holds his own in that. And what I really like about his draft is that he's laid all his chips on that premium unit, and then he's followed it up with Naya, who probably MVP, especially in the league format of last season. She's just incredible. She's had the price hike, but you know, it's not going to make a difference. She's insane. And then, you know, Titus, nice 50 cost tank, and he's got again what I was saying about Sephiroth being the 110 unit. You've got a nice 30 cost unit, which then opens up your whole draft and just poses problems. I think he's done a great job.
No, I think that variety of threats is one of the things that a lot of the times makes or breaks a team, right? And I think he got it, right? He got the Stern, he got the Ronan, he got the Victoria, Sadly, Ramza, Ravis, and Joker. Like he has a number of threats that are coming at you from different angles. And then even say, I think Masherie, which is also a threat, is not only really a support unit, but she can just blow people out of the water with some of those magic attacks. The only thing that I consider here is, the value of Aliarte. That 30 cost unit obviously is valuable in itself because you just let you run a team with Stern and, an 80 cost unit. But I do think that Liarte sometimes doesn't bring as much as the other 30 cost units, like your Severo or your Zazan, which I think for me were like the premium 30 cost units. But with the other variety of threats that he has, I mean, he can basically play whatever he wants. And on that come, with Liarte, a renowned Sara Liarte team taking full advantage of that Dark Ramu VC seems really scary. So yeah, I like the team. I think Naya at 60 it's a little bit trickier a lot trickier than she was. But when you look at her and you compare her with other healers that are even at higher cost than you are, she's still great. Like compare her to Yuna or Ayaka. I mean, she's still hanging in there. Might even be better than those two. So
I said this last season as a hot take, and maybe it was because I had Yuna. I genuinely think Naya, like pound for pound, is just better than Yuna at this point in the game. I think having the hate down,
I'm inclined to agree.
Yuna doesn't even have a diamond heal yet. It's literally like a cross cure. It's not a full diamond, I don't think. And I don't know, like she has re-raise, and that's kind of the one advantage. But I like the team a lot.
2 full heals.
Yeah, 2 full heals, man, and higher rate to proc. Renan at 90 is a stud. I absolutely love the 70 costs they got. Victoria, Masherie, Rams, and Rabbits are all really, really good. Yeah, I like the team a lot. We can skip this one. This one's so good. This one's so good. I bounce back and forth between a couple of team names. I also meant to throw in Schutzeld as my mascot, but I forgot to change it. So that's it. It is what it is. So my team, the Xander Canabes, I'll go over it real quick just to go over my thought process. So like I said, going into the draft, I really wanted Edward Elric. Didn't get him, so I had to pivot real quick. And I just said, okay, what do I think is the just best unit on the board at this time for my account? And I really felt like it was Jaden Rundall. It seems weird because he's been in the game for so long, but he's so good. We've seen it over 2 seasons. He's just been so dominant. And one of the biggest counters to him is magic barriers, or at least it has been. And we saw that with the Sand Rooster and Ram 9 matchup in the playoffs. Well, congratulations. Golden Magic Shot now breaks magic barriers. So now he can do it from really far away without having to limit break, and just testing an arena. It makes a huge difference. Lucia, I really wanted to try and take later in the draft. I was targeting that at like the 5th round originally, but I had 2 units on my sheet where I was like, if I don't get at least one of them, I'm truly going to be just bummed about my team. And that was Edward and Lucia. So when Edward left, I was like, you know what? I don't care if it's a reach. I'm taking Lucia in the 2nd. And honestly, I'm really happy I did. So I feel like I have a decent amount of flexibility. I feel like I have a decent Dark Slash team with Whisper and Little Leela. I have Skahal with a really nice heal support with Slime. I have double missile comp with Jaden and Lucia. 50 cost tank, 50 cost time mage, 50 cost healer, 50 cost damage dealer. So all my 50s do different things. And I did try and mostly just follow a 170-50 format. And overall, I'm pretty happy with it. I think this is the best team that I've drafted over the 3 seasons, but we'll see if that stays true over the course of it. So
yeah, dude, I thought you done a fantastic job. Like you said, Plan A kind of went out the window, and a lot of our draft, and especially I'll shout this out real quickly. I don't think we've mentioned it. We had like 85% of our draft wrapped up in day 1. It was flying, and maybe a lot of us. I think we would we caught a sweet spot where the whole league was just there, and we were just picking back to back. I don't know if some picks were rushed or, people just got caught up, but dude, you did an amazing job because Jaden, he might be pound for pound the best unit in the league just for the threat he poses and how much respect you have to pay him. And then following up with Lucia, and which I love because I think everyone needs an answer to Bradley, and I think she's a very, very good answer to him. She comes with tons of utility now, great penetration. She's got some disgusting status effects with her upgrades. Really great job. We've seen, the damage you've done with Lula the Bold in the past 2 seasons. You have to have your boy Cloud. I'm really excited to see some shit cell action. I know it's a unit you rate highly, so I can't wait to see that. Dude, you did an amazing job. But yeah, I look forward to seeing it.
No, I was gonna say I really like your team. We share a few picks. So obviously I agree with your evaluation of some of these units. I just wanted to shout out Skahal Slime Whisper. I mean that seems disgusting. Like how it's going to be something that every single opponent is going to have to consider when facing against you, and then you have that angle, that strong magic angle, and then the Jaden, Lucia with Mont, Leonis, right? Or Marguerite if you want to play some time mate shenanigans. I really like this team. Marguerite was a unit that I was considering when those time mages were coming off the board. Towards the end of our own draft, and I think she can do a lot of things for you. So getting Cloud on the 9th round, and then Rain. I'm sure you looked at this, but I'm not sure when is he scheduled to get his upgrade. But I've heard it's a pretty good one. So I hope it's early in the season. Yeah.
He gets some initial hate and he gets some more AoE resist. His AoE resist can get pretty ridiculous. And to be honest, these last couple rounds were basically just heart picks. These even the last 3 rounds. I felt like I picked with my brain in the first 8 and picked with my heart in the last 3. So I really wanted to try and be able to run a full Greatsword team if I wanted to, which now I can with Cloud Rain and Shuts Out. So we'll see how it goes. If Shuts Out gets his 140, look out. Otherwise, he might be a little underwhelming, but I think he still packs a punch.
Oh, he's 140. So he's 140. It's kind of insane. I saw a video of him the other day.
It's nuts. It's nuts for sure. Speaking of another pretty nuts team here, so we've got Ram 9 and the Rock Boys. I'll let you take over here. I don't want to go over it. I'd rather have you talk about it. So.
No, thank you. What does that say in the bottom right? Season 2 Grand. Oh no, that's me. Sorry. No, I'll keep it quick. I'll just basically give a quick snapshot into how I draft. Right. First thing I do, I kind of pick a theme or pick some favorite units I wanted. In this case, I was going full FMA. Edward got taken, so I was like, screw it. I'm just gonna pick Big Al for the first pick. And then I try and supplement around them. So that's why I think Murmur at 40 was a steal. To me, she was by far the best 40 cost unit, and she opens up a lot of potential for me. So I grabbed her. I didn't really want to pick Miranda again. I thought I'd try something different, but I was certain she'd go first round of the draft. But she somehow made it back to me, so I just felt obliged to pick her. And then, I just wanted to get a few variations in there, a few different threats. I'm obviously going to pick Thrivia. She's my favorite unit in the game. And yeah, I don't want to go on too long. I picked Killfate specifically for a playoff match with Ready Player Will. Hopefully we get there. But I heard the shade. He spoke about her on the JB and Ready Player Will podcast. So it's all good fun, but I want to represent. And yeah, that's it. I don't know what you guys think. I think my draft's okay. I personally think there's some better drafts, but we'll see. It's only half the story, right?
Yeah, no, a little bit about Ram's team here. I really like it. Obviously, Murmur on the 3rd round. I think a great pick. She, like you mentioned, she's the best 40 cost. In a general sense. Then Reagan on the 4th round. He's one of the newest units. Every single time newest unit means a lot of power usually. The Lorenzo at 50 cost. Lorenzo does a lot for your team. It's like Gilgamesh Light, right? Kingblade, haste, and some damage and a lot of utility. And then your girl Fraevia, obviously one of those threats that you need to consider in terms of like how do you approach her with your DPS. So yeah, really solid team. I think Miranda for us, she fell down a little bit just at 80 was a little bit triggered to make it work, but she's still a great unit. And you have with Amnelis and Murmur, I mean that's just a team that scream potential. So yeah, really good, solid draft.
Yeah, I mean, I think you got a couple of just huge steals. Fravia is another unit that I'm not sure, like, maybe a lot of people don't have her built. Maybe they, like, underestimate her. I'm not sure, because, like, she is such a value in this league, even at 80, because she's one of those tanks that, yeah, like, she gets a bunch of hate, she walks into the middle of the fight, and now she gets chunked. And instead of going to do damage, she just walks back and heals her entire team with the Mashri TMR, 3-hit barrier on the whole crew. And it's like, okay, good luck. Now you have to do that all over again. I mean, we've seen both you and Machen to use her to tremendous success. Reagan in the 4th is a steal. I like the not necessarily like full strike teams that you got going, but you have Alphonse Urel and Raldor. I think you have some really strong combos that you can go there. That Murmur is one of those units you don't necessarily have to have all the VC synergy for her to do her job, right? Like you could easily run Alphonse with one of those strike units, let Murmur haste them up. She's still going to have ridiculous resistances even without some of those other cards. I mean, I really hope that you and I would love to see you and Ready Player Wolf face off in the playoffs with the Kill Fate. I think that would be fun. And honestly, Amnelis in the 9th is wild. She's really good. She was the unit that came out right after season 2 started. So maybe some people weren't necessarily looking at her, but yeah, I mean, I think you did an awesome job, dude. And also one thing I was going to shout out to is you have some Red Mage card synergy here as well. The whole Reagan, Miranda, Murmur, correct me if I'm wrong, Reagan is Red Mage cards, right? So like all three of those are on the same thing. So that is like a full cold triangle Red Mage squad. I mean, I think you're underselling your team, personally. I think it's very good.
I appreciate it, man.
All right, so Shadow 91 with the 9th pick from Lionheart HQ with the Logic Breakers. Very, very interesting team. So first of all, right out of the gate, invested into Perrine and Velis. So Velis is one of those units that I was very curious to see how he would go in our draft this season because he dropped from 100 to 90. At 100, he was just too much, I think. But there are some combos now with 90 that can be really interesting. So like with the Perrine Velis Uni, Velis is going to be able to haste up the entire team, and Uni is going to shut that down on the other side. So Perrine is one of those units that we've seen that's kind of able to 3v1 in situations. And if you have her moving twice as fast as the other team, like I think that combo right there, it might seem a little weird at first, but with the heals and the haste and stuff, Perrine might just demolish some people right there. I like the team a lot as a whole. I like the Luarth, the Winter, and More the Merrier. I think they're both really solid at 80. My only thing with the team I thought was a little strange was that he grabbed 2 Time Mages with Shell and Elstra, but maybe he has more reasoning behind that I'm not aware of. But honestly, other than that, I like the team a lot, and I love the Thancred flex at the 11th pick.
Yeah, so really quick there. Yeah, Velis is one of those units that we didn't really know exactly how much he was going to go, how much higher he was going to go at 90 compared to 100. Honestly, I think that at 90, he's still a little bit too much of a cost to make it work. Just because when you have it on healer mode, right? Like you do want to make the best out of your heals. And at 90, the other 2 units that you're going to be healing are usually going to be like one really good unit, and then one unit that's usually not going to have enough of an effective HP, to use Ready Player Will's terms, to be healed effectively, right? Like it's going to be a low cost unit. So when you're thinking about Velis at a 90 cost or 100 cost, you're thinking about him as a damage dealer and haster, like kind of like an enabler DPS mode. And we haven't seen him used like that so much. So I'm curious if that's the angle that Shadow is gonna be using. Obviously, he's a great unit, and he's gonna be able, like you mentioned, that that combo of haste and uni. It's kind of insane when you look at it from a CT perspective. Yeah, I would like to see what he does with him. But yeah, Shell and Elstra seems a little bit of the same on that 50 cost slot. But yeah, getting Luartha and More the Merrier at the end, I think that's a pretty good pickup on the 9th and 10th round. So
yeah, I haven't got much else to add. I think you guys covered it brilliantly. I was very close to picking Velis actually because My account is heavily invested into Ice, as I'm sure you guys know,
I
and
haven't
I've
noticed.
used him. I've used him as that kind of secondary off DPS. And this again, I don't want to help my opposition too much, but a lot of people just fall into the trap of using the arithmetician sub job on him, and what that does, it just gives him too many heals. You know how his AI is going to operate. If you just his main job as a sub, it has an insane skill. I think it's used quite a lot in manual. I've used it quite a lot, where it gives a frostbite threat. He's obviously as a high faith unit, and he'll throw it out because it has a unique hitbox, so he can hit at some strange angles. And quite often with Velis, he'll get a double turn because he's hasted himself. So the first turn he'll throw out a heal, and he'll get another turn if everyone's healed up. He'll throw that out or throw a limit burst. So I was very close to picking Velis because I know people think his cost is inflated. It probably is. But I love his first 3 picks because, like you said, Perrine, she can hyper carry. So give her haste, give her a little bit of support. Uni can just shut down the other team, and she's good to go. So I like the first 3 picks. The rest of the draft, I think, as we've seen in the previous players, they've been really strong. I think this is perhaps on the weaker side on paper, but it's still definitely a threat.
Yeah, I would probably agree with that. That's a really cool trick with Velis. I don't have him, so maybe that's why I don't know that. But I didn't know that he had that in the sub kit. I might just have to cut that out of the video. So no, I'm just kidding. I won't do that.
Yeah, keep that between us.
Yeah. I'm gonna spoil one more thing here. So the last pick of our draft here is McCraine of the Materia Hunters, and of the inter-division rankings where we ranked everybody, McCraine ended up last in our entire division. So either people didn't watch last season that he went completely undefeated during the regular season, or they just really didn't like his team. But I'll be interested to see what you guys think of his squad. So he's the Materia Hunters again, showing that Gargus right off in the front. That is his favorite unit in the game, so I was excited to see that he got that in the 11th. Gargus, another one of those units like Miranda that went up to 80 from 70. I think he's still worth it, personally. I think he was pretty ridiculous at 70, and now I think he's fair at 80. But still, to get him in the 11th, I think is nice. He's got some other 70 options that he could run that with if he wants. But I think the way he started the draft, he saw all these tier 1 units go right out of the gate in tier 1 or in round 1. He was picking last, and he say, hey, there's a ton of tier 1s off the board. I'm just going to go ahead and bring one of the best, if not the best, MR tank there is in Dario. And I'm going to grab Valade, to be able to give protect to the team, bring out heals and a bunch of unique buffs, which is cool. He's just got a lot of diverse stuff. And it's one of those things that last season I looked at his team in a similar fashion. He had a lot of diverse units, and I didn't think he was going to be able to make it work. He 100% proved me wrong. So I'm expecting somewhat something similar. The only difference is that I think last season he had one unit that seemed like head and shoulders, just like one super power unit pick. And I don't know if I necessarily see that on the team. But he's got a lot of really good options and flexibility, which he's a really good player, and he's going to figure that out, I think.
Yeah, just to tag on to what you said, him being, I don't know, I guess people were just looking, judging the roster and not the player, which is fair. That's what we were supposed to do. But it's hard not to factor in McCrane's ability as a player. He's so creative in his compositions. Shout out the Yerma pick at 3rd. You can see that he was picking with his heart. You're going to see some really fun matches with McCraine this season, that's for sure. I think his draft's solid. I personally rank him 3rd. Probably a bit of player bias was coming into that, but Dario is practically a UR now. He's fantastic. And then for Lade, McCrane's a player who knows how to use him. I've mentioned this to Kason before. He's not as easy to plug and play as other supports because of his buffs and his AI and especially his movement. But McCraine he'll hit the lab and he'll iron that out. So I think people are in for a bit of a shock with McCraine. Like I said, I ranked his draft 3rd overall, and just he'll kill you with options. You wouldn't know what to prepare for when you're playing with him. And McCraine plays the player matchup extremely well, and that you can't, that doesn't translate to a cost sheet or a unit sheet. He'll defeat a lot of players in with the mind game. So yeah, great stuff.
Yeah, I think McCraine is going to get a lot of wins, and it's going to be a lot based off his actual skill as a player and the options he has on his roster. Obviously, Yerma. I mean, when we played in the semifinals last season, he told me Yerma was one of his favorite units. So definitely choosing with his heart over there. And but if you look at the rest of his units, like Darion Valade, one of the top 3 tier 3 units in the whole pool. And then on his carry side, has Glassy, Wezette at 80 cost. She's an insane unit. She's so strong. Sakura at 80 cost, I think she's still worth it. She was definitely on my board. She got a lot actually of her reincarnation too. The accuracy was really good. He has Saro, which has a good angle, and Queen Mashari and then Gargus. So I think that definitely his low tier is better than his high tier. But that's what gives a roster flexibility. When you look at a roster and it's very loaded on the top end, but the options on the lower end are limited, you will see less comps overall just because of how it works in cost restricted formats. So yeah, I think he's going to get a lot of wins, and it's going to be on the back of flexibility and how good he is. But there's definitely some power there.
And I'm going to give one real quick shout out before we end this division here. So he grabbed Balo in the 10th round. And I obviously understand he doesn't have any like 100 cost units to throw in here. But since your team is mostly already decided at that point and grabbing Balo in the 10th, he might not use Balo at all in the first however many weeks. But when Balo, if he gets the same 140 that he did in JP, I understand it was kind of an April Fool's joke over there, but if he gets the same 140, Balo immediately becomes, in my opinion, the best 30 cost in the format by a decent margin. Like, so right now, I don't think he's very good at 30. But if and when that pays off, that is a huge payoff for him. And it could be a really nice choice for him. So
yeah, it's a nice bet to make. I think that he's going to get the same 140 upgrade, by the way. I don't think the devs are going to be industrious enough to actually modify it.
I would agree.